So this is the Civivi Nugz, or I'm going to call it Nugz. Nugz. I'll get it wrong, but it's fun to say. So this knife is the Civivi Nugz. Scale-wise, this knife comes in at a familiar Civivi 7.28-24 inches. I can't remember precisely off the top of my head. Weight-wise, this knife is about 3.18 ounces. Price-wise, this knife comes in at a couple tiers, but they're all quite interesting. So, you have the cheapest tiers coming in about $58 with these two knives. The second tier with about $60 with this knife. And then the third tier at about $80, which is the carbon fiber Damascus one. That's this board right here. So, Damascus steel, twilled carbon fiber, 80 bucks, not a shabby deal in the slightest. Blade-wise for this guy, you're looking at 14C28N steel. Obviously, you have the micarta G10 or wood or 12 carbon fiber handles. There's a whole lot of variations with this guy. Pocket clips, they are fixed for now with the current standard scales on this right-handed side. I apologize, my left-handed friends. And then when it comes to usability, obviously you have two opening and closing methods. You have this little thumb hole right here, and then you have this little stud in the back right here. So pick your poison, but it actually leads into an interesting point of opening mechanisms and looks reminding me of another knife, Civivi EX1. Now, obviously, there are differences with the logo being smaller, the scales being slightly different sized, the pocket clip not being reversible on this one, but the blade also being reverse Tonto. However, the biggest difference being the thumb hole versus the little channel that you can use for opening and closing. So $50 for this knife specifically. What are you getting and is it worth it? Well, obviously, we've gone over the specs for the thing. Now let's go over the uses and me showing you how all four work. So you could probably see, and what I noticed very quickly in the video was that the closing mechanism is a little bit different depending on which blade you have. The blackwash on the wood one, for example, if you want to drop shut it as so, it requires a little bit more work versus, let's say, the Damascus, which might have a slightly heavier blade, mechanism, the coating might be a little bit different, and just slides right in there. Some people might consider that important, some might not. Your mileage may vary, but I thought it was an interesting thing to point out in the review process. Regarding something like fit, this knife has a pretty straightforward holding mechanism. There's not a whole lot of work going on in the scales or in anything like that. It's a really simple knife, fits nicely in the palm of the hand. The scales are not huge. I think I mentioned in my EX1 video how I felt like they had lopped off like ½ an inch in the actual handle holding process, but then they give you a decent amount on the top for gripping, and now you have these little spots as well to hold on to. It's a really nice, small, compact knife that, depending on what you buy it for, what you use it for, this one can look good, and this one you can beat up on all day, and it's a great utility knife. It's easy to store, easy to take places, and if you lose it or TSA takes it away, it's not the end of the world. I would also like to point out on the blades, this knife was designed by Weir Knives. I think they did a really nice job with the design of this knife, the feel of it, the whole compact carry that this thing is. It feels really nice in the hand. I don't feel like it's going to go anywhere. I can operate it with confidence. And I think for the price that they're charging for it, I really do appreciate the work that they've put into making this knife viable. Speaking of designing the thing, opening and closing, 1, 2, 3, about 3 pounds of force required for that one. Now, what I do appreciate about this knife is the way that it really snaps compared to some other knives that might have a more sluggish opening mechanism where you apply pressure and it immediately goes into that nice open position. And the sound, we'll talk about that in a second, is really enjoyable and pleasant to listen to. And as far as the locking goes, it's really easy to use, and I do appreciate the little footprint that it leaves when I'm opening it, closing it, moving my hands. Like for example, this knife can easily find a place on my desk as a nice little fidget knife all day long. I do also appreciate the reverse Tonto blade that they put in this thing. It's really helpful for, opening boxes, moving things around, accessing something I need to make a protrusion into, let's say. Really nice and comfortable. And I think closed and open, I think the whole silhouette of the thing is quite handsome. And I am a sucker for thumb holes like this. It's where my hand naturally goes. Depending on how you like to open your knives, it's a really great option at a really affordable price point. But enough about those technical things. How does this knife sound? So that's a black wash blade coating. Now let me compare that real quick to a Damascus knife, such as this one, and at times it almost feels like the black wash one has like a muffler on it, whereas this one is a little bit more of a crisper note to it. It's a little thing for the audiophiles out there. So as far as feel goes, as far as usability goes, as far as the price goes, I would say this knife fits right into Civivi's affordable carry policy, their strategy going on about things, depending on how you feel about full blackout or micarta or the styles all on hand. Your mileage may vary, that sort of thing, but I really do appreciate where this knife's coming from, and I can easily see one of these knives taking a place in my backpack when I go on trips, when I go hiking, when I do outdoors work. I think it really will nicely fit into my lifestyle. So let me know what you think of this knife and these knives in the comments down below. Feel free to hop in the Discord. One of the guys who's did a really nice, interesting scales for awesome Civivi knives. That was really cool to see and to talk about and to see the work that people are doing in the community. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.